So it's been 2 days of intense conversations on intra-African trade and integration. What has been your key takeaways from these 2 days?
Well, these 2 days clearly is a demonstration of commitment from African leaders and the Caribbean leaders, showing that Africa and African diaspora are keen on full integration to aggregate their commonwealth, to increase trade, and to give more force to the whole Africans and Africans in diaspora. So it's a very intentional and very refreshing to see that there's a strong political will expressed by the political leaders, and under the platform of the Afrexim Bank, you can also see that there is a corporate infrastructure platform that can bring that to reality.
Now, let's move the conversation a bit from the political side of things to energy. Are there any specific local content initiatives that are in place to promote participation of Nigerian companies in FPSO operations?
Well, so you can't take FPSO in isolation, but we have the local, the Nigerian Content Act, which is clearly there to promote or enable Nigerian companies to participate more in the upstream sector. Now, if you dimension that, or if you break it down, you will realize that there are a lot of components, because an FPSO is effectively a what you call you could say an integration of different components of oil and gas activities to give you, or if you like, call it a packaging, because you really packaging mechanical, electrical, civil, all manner of technical resource to produce an equipment or an infrastructure that provide that platform to produce oil. Now, if you take FPSO as a whole, many times it's not so much whether there's no enablement, but probably there are still gaps in terms of management and financing and all that. But as individual parts, there's a lot of enablement or the acts to support Nigerian companies to participate much more than before in FPSO business.
So that brings me to my next question. When you talked about bringing together Nigerian companies, how are you bridging the gap to meet the future demand and penetration of FPSOs, even as more oil and gas projects are beginning to emerge?
Well, again, the fundamental questions have not gone away, and we haven't really provided a sufficient response to those challenging areas, which is management, capital, technology. So, whereas we've made a huge improvement, we are still very far from meeting up the demands for actually Nigerianizing FPSO, because when we go away from the shallow water operations and you start looking at deep water, the technology requirement, the investment requirements is a lot more. The management skills you need is a lot more. So clearly, we will need a lot more collaboration, a lot more support, long-term financing, and a lot local indigenous financing products to support that development. So, of course, there are huge opportunities still emerging in the deeper areas of the in offshore West Africa generally. And if you are able to execute FPSO projects in offshore Nigeria, there's no reason why you can't do that for the rest of Africa. So, but as I said, the deeper you go in depth, the more challenging it becomes in financing, in engineering, project management, and all of that. So those are the fundamental issues you have to deal with.
So it looks like there's still so much we need to do when it comes to the Nigerian space in terms of FPSOs.
Right. So we have to build capacity. We have to increase capacity. We have to reduce. We have to close the gaps that exist right now that does not allow Nigerians to effectively take control of major FPSO projects. We have to bridge those gaps.
Now, in terms of profitability and feasibility, does oil price volatility have any impact on projects based on FPSO projects?
Indeed, there are categories of clients. There are the clients who have huge parent company, balance sheet that can survive the headwinds when they come, the volatilities when they come. But there's also the other companies that are probably just still building up capacity, and their balance sheets are not big enough to deal with the headwinds and the volatilities that come. So if you are in this business of oil and you don't have that strong bandwidth, when the volatility comes, the chances are that you will be hurt. And some people don't survive, some others come back. And we've seen that cycle many, many times. So this is part of the business. And everyone who is in the business must be aware of that and be prepared to take on those challenges.
Now, the last question. So what projects and ongoing FPSO projects are in your pipeline at Century Energy?
Again, because of the confidentialities, I can give you, but we clearly, offshore Africa, you can easily, with the right financing, you can easily consider 20 odd FPSO projects. So you're looking at easily some 3 to 4 FPSO projects every year for the next 10 years. If the oil prices stay strong, which means the demand for oil is high. So yeah, that's a lot, but I can't give you any specific because we are not the owners of those fields, and the owners of the fields will not like you to talk about their projects. But I can say generally, we have over 20 FPSO projects that to support the development of offshore hydrocarbon resource.